Thom Hartmann here with you. And today, it's Friday, of course, so our very first Brunch with Bernie in our new time period, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, noon Pacific Time. And Senator Sanders, welcome.
Good to be with you, Tom, but we're going to have to rethink the title of the program.
Well, I still like the B with B, the brunch. And it is, it's noon on the West Coast, so that's...
Late afternoon snack on the East Coast with Bernie. How's that?
It's just, Sue, who runs our chat room, is doing so from the United Kingdom. She lives outside of London, and she suggested high tea with Bernie, but it just didn't sound quite right. I thought it was very nice, very elegant, but it wouldn't. Americans wouldn't get the joke. So anyway, what's going on in the world?
Regardless of what time it is, there is a heck of a lot of stuff going on in Washington. Let me just rattle through some of what we've been working on in the last week. Anyone who fills up their gas tank understands that prices are soaring, and they understand that this is not only hurting individual consumers, especially those people in rural states like Vermont who travel long distances to work, but it's hurting the entire recovery effort. For those folks who think that the price of oil is going up because of what we learned in elementary school about supply and demand in capitalist society, it really is not working quite that way. We have more supply right now in the United States than we did 3 years ago when the price of gas was $1.90 a gallon. There's less demand in the United States now than since 1997, and worldwide, the ratio of supply to demand is twice as much supply as demand in the last quarter. Supply is growing a lot faster than demand. So what is the answer? Why are oil prices soaring and having such a negative impact?
Somebody's pulling that gasoline or oil off the market.
Well, here's what we got. I mean, it's really quite amazing. It's apparently not bad enough that in the last 10 years, the large oil companies in this country, ExxonMobil, et cetera, have made $1 trillion in profit. Got that? $1 trillion in profit over the last decade to large oil companies. Wow. What you're now seeing and have increasingly seen in recent years is our good friends on Wall Street who helped cause this terrible recession because of their greed and illegal behavior. They're back at it again. And now what they're doing is speculating very, very heavily in the oil futures market. The reality is that over 80% of the oil futures market is now controlled not by what we call end users, i.e., airline companies or fuel dealers or trucking companies, the people who actually use oil. That market is now controlled by over 80% by Wall Street speculators led by, we think, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and these guys. And with this huge amount of money coming into the oil futures market with the sole purpose of earning high profits, not to use the product, it has driven up oil prices. Goldman Sachs itself, in an article in Forbes magazine recently, suggested that they thought that excessive speculation was adding about 56 cents to a gallon of gas. I suspect that that's probably low, but that's what they are saying. Some people, like the St. Louis Fed, are suggesting that it's impacting the price of a barrel of oil by about 20%. No one knows exactly.
So another way to say that would be that the banksters on Wall Street are skimming 60 cents off every gallon of gas you buy and putting it in their pocket.
That's exactly the appropriate way to say it. And that may be higher than that. Now, here's the good news, the bad news, and maybe the good news. The good news is that when Dodd-Frank, the financial reform bill, was passed, what the Congress explicitly stated to an agency called the Commodity Futures Trading Commission is you have to deal with excessive speculation on the oil futures market. You got to deal with that. They were supposed to have done that in January of 2011. We're in March of 2012. They still have not done it. 10 of us met yesterday in Washington to figure out a way to force them to get moving on this. We believe that if you end this excessive speculation, you can drive oil prices down, and that's something that we want to do. So that's an issue out there of huge concern to the American people. Another issue which you and I have talked about a whole lot is the need to rebuild America's infrastructure and put people back to work. I'm happy to report that as a member of the Transportation Committee that this week, by a vote of 74 to 22, so it was a fairly bipartisan vote. I think virtually all the Democrats voted for it, and many of the Republicans did. We passed a 2-year, $109 billion transportation bill. The estimate there is that will create about 1 million new decent-paying jobs. To my mind, this is a good step forward. We've got to go a lot further than that. That's actually a modest transportation bill, but given what's going on in Congress right now, it is a step forward. We hope that the House will pass something similar. I don't have to tell anybody who drives that our roads and bridges are in serious disrepair in this country. In the state of Vermont, just for an example, about 1/3 of our bridges are in need of significant repair, and that's a similar number to our federal aid highways, about 1/3 of them as well. So in Vermont and all over this country, there is a huge amount of work to be done rebuilding roads, bridges, transit. We also need, obviously, rebuild our rail system. We've got our older schools out there that need work, water systems that need repair. So this is a start, 1 million new jobs. I hope the House will get its act together and on occasion, for this occasion at least, do something that they rarely do and do the right thing and pass something to help American workers and our infrastructure. So that's some good news. Mm-hmm. We continue to work on an issue that I know is of great interest to many listeners, that is trying to save the post office from draconian cuts out there. I was spending half my life with the Postmaster General and other people. The original proposal called for shutting down 3,700 rural post offices, half of the processing plants in this country, slowing mail delivery service, ending Saturday mail, etc., shrinking the Postal Service by about 200,000. We're still in the midst of just a huge struggle out there, and I don't want to paint a picture that's any rosier than it is. But I will continue to work on that because I think the post office is just enormously important for this country and for rural America especially. So we're engaged on that issue. Hard to say when a bill is going to come up, but it may be sooner than later, maybe within the next couple of weeks. This week, I believe, is, Tom, the anniversary of the Fukushima disaster.
Yes.
And there was a hearing on the Environment Committee on which I sit, kind of review where we are in America, given the disaster that took place in Fukushima. As you know, there are about 23 reactors in this country, including one in southern Vermont, which have the same design that Fukushima did. Mm-hmm. So obviously what the committee wants to make sure is that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is doing everything that it can to make certain that something like what happened in Japan never, ever happens in the United States. So that was the subject of that discussion. But there's another point that needs to be mentioned. Many of my Republican friends and some Democrats want to build a whole lot of new nuclear power plants. And what I want the American people to understand is when you're talking about the new production of electricity, new generation of electricity, the most expensive way to go is nuclear power. And when you're talking about a major American welfare program, you're also talking about nuclear power. As taxpayers, what we do is put at risk, we are providing major insurance to the nuclear power industry that they cannot get. Wall Street won't give them a whole lot of other subsidies, and I think we should have a serious conversation about the sense of all of that.
Time to end the welfare for the nuclear industry. Sounds great to me. Senator Bernie Sanders is with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be picking up your calls for Senator Sanders in our National Town Hall meeting right after this. Susan in Ukiah, California, watching on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My question is about, I'm really grateful that for his work, Senator Sanders. I was wondering with this latest effort to, put our people back to work, employing them in infrastructure is great, but I was wondering how much of this money would be going to like alternative mass transit, and how much would be going to just rebuilding the roads and continuing the system that we're on right now.
Susan, that's a good question. And one of the concessions where we are right now in Congress, as you know, We have a Republican Party which is now right-wing extremist, and it is very hard to move anything. We got a bill that passed the Senate, which is a fairly modest bill. One of the concessions that was made is that almost all of this money is going to go to roads, bridges, and transit, the buses as well. But if you're asking in this bill, as best as I understand it, is money going to go to bike paths? The answer is no. I would like to see that. When I was mayor of the city of Burlington, we built a beautiful bike path, which is very heavily utilized. I believe in that. We're working on a four-season trail here in Vermont. But most of this money is going to go to roads and bridges and to transit, all of which, by the way, needs a whole lot of funding as well.
Maybe someday we'll get high-speed rail, right?
Maybe.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. We'll be right back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders. Check out his website at sanders.senate.gov. G-O-V. We'll be right back. The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Solar World. SolarWorld.com for information on solar electricity.
Let me warn the nation against the smooth evasion that says we believe in Social Security, we believe in work for the unemployed, cross our hearts and hope to die. We believe in all these things.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls in our national town hall meeting. And Dustin in St. Louis, Missouri. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, so much admiration for your courage and integrity, sir. I just want to point out that, the right have debased and perverted our civic vernacular so much. I think the biggest victim has been the socialist doctrine. I think it's done that largely through they discredit it through associating it with Soviet communism. To me, socialism is basically extending democracy to the economic sphere, the realization that you can't have political democracy without economic equality. Socialism, to me, is synonymous with democracy. But what bothers me the most is the left has yielded. I mean, how can socialism regain its credibility? I believe you're the only senator in the history of the United States who is an admitted socialist.
Could be. But I think, Dustin, I think you make a good point. And I think one of the sad things is that people don't understand what democratic socialism has done in Scandinavia over the years and in many European countries. If you go to Scandinavia and you ask people about whether or not they have health insurance or health care, they look at you like you're crazy because they have had health care as a right for many, many decades. If you ask people there about the high cost of college education, and I just met with some kids from Vermont the other day, and we're talking about college education being $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year in the United States. Most of the European countries, it's either free or at minimal cost, because those countries have decided that in terms of health care, in terms of education, in terms of retirement benefits, in terms of maternal benefits when you have a baby, that those are certain rights that working people are entitled to, that all people are entitled to, regardless of their income. And I think it's a sad state of affairs that the American media has not covered what goes on in Scandinavia and in Europe to show that, of course you can have democracy. Those countries often have higher percentages of people voting than we do in America, and yet you can have a safety net which is so much stronger than exists in this country, which provides opportunity for all of their kids, where the poverty rate in Scandinavia, you have a childhood poverty rate, depending on the country, of 3%, 4%, 5%. In this country, it is 22%. And yet we have more people in jail than does China. And there's a relationship, there's a correlation between high childhood poverty and folks ending up in jail. So thank you for your call, Dustin, and I think I certainly agree with you.
Joseph in New York City, listening on WWRL, 1600 AM. Joseph, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, it's Joseph. Hi, Senator. Love you, brother. Listen, I just have a quick question. I received my PhD in 2010, and I consolidated my loans with the government, and I'm essentially at a 6.4 to 6.8% interest rate, and most of my payment, 60% of it goes to the interest and 40% roughly to the principal. I'm wondering, why does Goldman get to borrow money at less than 1% and I'm paying 6.8? I'm essentially doing research for the government, and I'm earning a meager wage, and it's like, why am I paying 6.8? Can't you or somebody introduce a bill to lower that government rate?
Joseph, thanks for the question, and you're right. There is something wrong when, in a horrendous economy, young people graduating college or graduate school are now paying much, much higher interest rates than other institutions, banks and others. It is a huge issue, Joseph. It is something that we can and will look into. I can tell you, you're certainly not alone in this. All over my state and all over this country, a whole lot of folks who are graduating from college, getting jobs, if they're lucky, that don't pay a whole lot. If they're not lucky, they have no jobs, and are really confronting very, very high loans that they have to pay off. So this is a huge issue, and yes, Joseph, it is something that we can look at.
Kevin in Wilmington, Vermont, watching us on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hi, this is Kevin Downey, Bernie.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, I try and call you at least once a month. I really enjoy the show. The question now is, there have been many, probably scores of technology transfers from American corporations to China in order to do business in China. Is there a record in our government of such technological transfers, and does the government have a say about it? Because perhaps they could be national security.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Is this treasonous?
The answer is, as one can imagine, it's a complicated and difficult issue. So the theory, at least, Kevin, is that we should not be trading away technology that can be used for military purposes. That's the theory. In reality, it is pretty hard to determine when you're dealing with very high-tech, sophisticated, complicated technology to say whether it is just going to be used for civilian use or whether it could be transferred to military use. I think, in my view, there is no question but that major corporation after major corporation has bowed to China's demand not only to come to China, to shut down plants in America, throw American workers out on the street and move to China, but as part of that whole process, what China has demanded, they're tough negotiators, and they say, hey, we want to understand the technology because we want to build the most sophisticated type of products in this country as well. And if you want to come here, that's what you're going to have to give us, and many companies are doing that. So theoretically, there should not be military technology for national security purposes. In reality, I suspect that's not necessarily the case.
Strong argument for reviving a national manufacturing policy and trade policy.
It sure is.
Yeah. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. Our Brunch with Bernie hour, taking your calls in our national town hall meeting with a guy I think of as America's senator. Of course, the good citizens of Vermont know he's theirs. Check out his website, sanders.senate.gov. You can sign up for his newsletter, and you can sign his constitutional amendment to roll back Citizens United.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
And you can drop by our live chat room, and you can make your own blogs and post messages on our message board, all kinds of cool stuff, all free over at ThomHartmann.com, plus our iPad apps.
The people know the Democratic Party is the people's party, and the Republican Party is the party of special interest, and it always has been and always will be.
Take it back to mainstream media, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls at our national town hall meeting. And Dan in Arvada, Colorado, listening on AM 760 in Denver, our Clear Channel station in Denver. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders and Tom, thank you both for all you do. Senator Sanders, I wonder if when Congress passed the law that wouldn't allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the pharmaceutical companies, if they were really airtight about that, could Medicare purchase the drugs from the Veterans Administration instead and just cut the pharmaceutical companies out?
Well, that's an interesting point, Dan. I don't think on the current law that Medicare could do that. But this is an issue that many of us remain absolutely outraged about. What Dan is talking about, in case people don't know it, is when the Medicare Part D prescription drug program was built and created, the Republicans specifically put in it language which said that that Medicare could not negotiate with its huge purchasing capabilities, its huge leverage, could not use that leverage to get affordable prices from the drug companies. They could not negotiate prices with the drug companies so that the drug companies could continue to rip off the government and Medicare. What Dan is also saying, amazingly enough, is that the Veterans Administration and Medicaid do negotiate prices with the drug companies and get the same prescription drug for a lower price. That's how crazy it is. So many of us are doing everything that we can to put Medicare into a position where they can negotiate prices and get lower costs for Medicare. I would point out that the pharmaceutical industry is enormously powerful in this country. And that is the reason why today our people are paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Tom, a number of years ago, I took a group of Vermonters over the Canadian border. I'm talking to you about an hour and 15 minutes away from the Canadian border. Mm-hmm. We took people into Canada to make the point that they could purchase the same exact prescription drugs they are buying in America. And in one case, it was a drug called tamoxifen used for breast cancer. Women bought it for 1/10 the price they were paying in Vermont. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I do. And I remember those bus trips going up there when you were. Right. I lived in Vermont when you were doing that.
So the point is, and a whole lot of people continue to buy their medicine in Canada. But the point that Dan is making is the pharmaceutical industry is very, very powerful. We have the absurd situation with Medicare. We're wasting huge amounts of money. The other thing that I would tell Dan is we're doing a study of the amount of fraud that the pharmaceutical industry is engaged in right now in ripping off the United States government. And it is enormous, involving virtually almost every major drug company in our country. So there's a lot to be talked about in terms of the drug companies, and that's an issue I hope to return to.
Great. Okay, Bruce in Los Angeles. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Tom. Senator, I pay Social Security and Medicare taxes on 100% of my income. My question is, why doesn't everybody, including you?
In other words, why is there a cap at $106,000?
The answer is, Bruce, I agree with you, and that's why I have introduced legislation to do more or less that. What Bruce is talking about is that right now, if you're making about $110,000 a year, you pay 100% of your Social Security tax. If you're making 10 times that, you're going to pay 1/10, because there is a ceiling on the Social Security tax. One way that we can make sure that Social Security is solvent for the next 75 years is to lift that cap. I believe we could start off at incomes of $250,000 a year, and that's the legislation that I have introduced, Bruce. So that's exactly what I have done. If you want to solve the Social Security problem long term, lift the cap on Social Security, the income that is taxable for Social Security purposes. You could solve that problem.
Steve in Liberty Hill, Texas. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Tom, for the opportunity. Senator Sanders, thank you for your service. I would like for you to go into more detail about the Price-Anderson Act and its descendants, and the impact of that on tax dollars and on the free market system. I'll hang up and appreciate
thanks, Steve. I was just raising this issue the other day at a hearing with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Here's the point. You can be in favor of nuclear power. You can be opposed to nuclear power. But what everybody has got to understand is that the nuclear power industry today is one of the great welfare programs in the United States, to the tune of tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars. And despite the rhetoric of my Republican friends about getting the government off the backs of the private sector, how often have we heard that one, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
When I asked them if they wanted to get the government off the backs of the nuclear power industry, I didn't hear too many people saying yes. In other words, they want to continue the enormous subsidies and support for that industry. Without those subsidies and support, by the way, nuclear power industry in America would probably collapse in one day. So here's what you got. Price-Anderson is legislation that has been around for a long time. This is what it says. It says that if, God forbid, there was ever a major nuclear disaster in America, what would happen is that the nuclear reactor itself, the company that owned the reactor, would pay a certain amount in terms of liability. Then, after that certain amount, I don't have the number in front of me, the nuclear industry as a whole would pitch in, and I think that takes you, I could be wrong, somewhere around $15-17 billion. But if you had a nuclear disaster in America, say, that cost $50 billion, and remember that BP itself, the BP disaster in Louisiana, that's over $20 billion.
Yeah.
That's not nuclear.
And Fukushima will be well over $1 trillion.
Well, there you go. So if, God forbid, you ever had a disaster of that kind, after the $15 billion or $17 billion or whatever it is that the industry puts in to liability payments, it's the taxpayers of America who do that. Now, you would say, why doesn't the nuclear industry go to Wall Street? It's an insurance issue. You can go to an insurance company and say, look, I want insurance to make sure that if there is a disaster in America, you guys are going to be paying out. I'm going to pay you. You know what? There is no insurance company in America that would provide that insurance to a nuclear power company. Only the taxpayers of America, the United States government, are doing that. That's number one. But it's not just Price-Anderson and the insurance aspect. There's a new nuclear power plant that's being contemplated to be built in Georgia. Something like $8 billion in loan guarantees. In other words, once again, where is Wall Street? Why aren't the big, financial investment houses putting money into nuclear power?
In other words, they're getting the front end money from the taxpayers, right?
Exactly.
Or the ratepayers.
It's risky.
Yeah.
So, when you hear people, and then on top of that, what do you do with all of the nuclear waste at the power plants in America? Who's going to do that? Wall Street going to invest in that? I don't think so. So if you look at those three issues as well, and then on top of that, all kinds of money going into research and development for the nuclear industry. So you've got a nuclear industry which is owned by large and powerful and profitable corporations being subsidized in an extraordinary way by the taxpayers of America for a technology which, in terms of new electricity generation, is the most expensive around. So for all of my good Republican friends who want to get the government out of the private sector, let business do what they want to do, well, let's start off with the nuclear power industry. I don't think you're going to have too many Republican takers on that proposition.
Yeah, that would be surprising. John in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, Mr. Sanders, in response to the end users of raw crude and the speculation, you've almost got two-thirds of the futures contracts being bought by speculators. And I was wondering, maybe if we had a no-buy fuel day or a no-buy fuel week, it would make these contracts come to maturity and they can take delivery of the raw crude. You talked about a litmus test for these speculators, and I was wondering if that's a plausible answer.
Well, it would take. That's a very interesting concept, John. I think it would take a hell of a lot of organizing to make that happen. Let them buy nothing, huh? But bottom line there is something wrong with a system when over 80% of the oil futures market is controlled not by people who actually use oil, but by Wall Street speculators whose only function in life is to make as much money as they can.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Don't go to. We have 20 seconds. Bernie, in 20 seconds, further thoughts on the probability of Congress doing something about that before the election?
we're working as hard as we can. As I mentioned earlier, we had the chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission in an office. We had 10 members of the Senate telling him to get moving. We are working on legislation right now to force him to do the right thing.
Yeah, because it seems like they're just keeping these prices high until the election's not a good thing. We'll be back with more Senator Bernie Sanders, our Brunch with Bernie Hour, our national town hall meeting with the senator right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And a great news resource, a great newsletter, and also an opportunity to become a political activist by signing up for a constitutional amendment. Go to sanders.senate.gov. And welcome back. Terry in Dorena, Oregon, watching us on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Well, hello, you loving people. I'm really glad to be able to talk to you. How are you?
Great. Thank you, Terry.
I saw you, Bernie, last night on the NRC commission and was very impressed with your stance on letting them know the truth. And that leads me to say that opinions do not matter when it comes to nuclear proliferation. The truth is the truth, and opinions are propagandized. The government has no right. We are going to go to war with Iran, and we have...
Terry, pardon my interrupting you, Terry, but is there a question in there for the senator?
Yes, there is. We are selling nuclear to India, and I think we have a liability on top of that one. So my question is that no one acknowledged, they say, oh, we're so safe and clean. Nobody died. Well, where did the $6 billion go to from a judgment from the government in the last couple of years for the nuclear industry through the military? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Terry, I don't
know about that.
Follow the question. I mean, in terms of nuclear power, I just wanted to reiterate: you can be for it or you can be against it, but understand that it is the most expensive way of generating new electricity. It is heavily, heavily, heavily dependent on government welfare. In terms of nuclear proliferation, obviously, as a world, we've got to do our best to cut down and hopefully someday make sure that we get rid of nuclear weapons. And that's that.
Michael in Dublin, Virginia. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hello, Senator Sanders and Tom. How are you? I hope you guys are wonderful today. My question for you, Senator, is can you introduce legislation? Well, I'm a war veteran of the Persian Gulf War, the first Persian Gulf War, and I served on the USS Iowa, where I helped bury 47 souls and pick up all their body parts. A lot of soldiers, young men, lost their lives in Iraq fighting for oil. We came back. Why do we have to pay twice? We have soldiers who have lost their limbs, arms, and families that lost loved ones. Why do we have to come back and still pay for the oil that we paid for once, sir? Could you introduce legislation that will allow us veterans to not have to pay with our lives twice for oil?
Well, I think what we can do, Michael, and I speak as a member of the Veterans Committee, is to make sure that all of those people who put their lives on the line defending this country, and thank you very much for your service, get all of the benefits that they have been promised and in a timely manner. Sometimes veterans apply for benefits and it takes much, much too long for them to get those benefits, and that's something that we are working on right now. So I don't know that I can guarantee the veterans will get, cheaper or discounts on their gas and oil, but I can do my best to make sure that veterans get the educational opportunities that they have been promised. We've made some success in that area in a post-9/11 GI Bill, and that they certainly get the health care and other benefits that they need.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us in our Brunch with Bernie Hour, our national town hall meeting. We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this.
Our present emergency and a common sense of decency make it imperative that no new group of war millionaires shall come into being in this nation as a result of the struggles abroad.
Welcome back to the place where, as Bernie says, despair is not an option. The Thom Hartmann Program, our Brunch with Bernie hour, or maybe Lunch with Bernie. I guess we'll have to negotiate that. Diane in Lansing, Michigan, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Tom. I hear you talk about Lansing all the time.
My hometown. I grew up there, yeah.
Yep. My question for Senator Sanders is about Obamacare. I seen a commercial the other day recently about Pat Boone. He was on saying that we're going to have we're going to lose Medicare. You're going to have to pay more for Medicare and all this. And I'd love to hear your take on it and set the record straight.
Diane, don't. Pat Boone had a good career as a singer. I don't think he's doing quite as well as a spokesman for right-wing Republicans. There are going to be a lot of commercials out there about Medicare and what healthcare reform did. Probably, among other things, they will not be talking about the fact that the healthcare reform bill is ending the so-called donut hole currently existing in Medicare Part D, so that seniors are not going to have to pay out of their pocket 100% of the cost of prescription drugs when they go above a certain point. The other thing that our right-wing Republicans probably will not be telling us on their commercials is that the legislation that passed the House in terms of Medicare, and this is where they are coming from, led by Congressman Paul Ryan, who's chairman of the Budget Committee there, would basically end Medicare as we know it and convert it into a voucher program. So these people who are so worried about Medicare, what they are supporting is the converting of Medicare into a voucher program, give seniors $8,000 and say, all right, here's $8,000. You have a serious illness. You're dealing with cancer, heart disease. Good luck to you. Go out and find a private insurance company to take care of you. Now, Diane, you tell me what seniors are going to do with $8,000 when they're facing serious illness. So I think what you're going to be seeing, obviously, on 30-second TV commercials coming from super PACs or from right-wing Republicans are some very significant distortions of reality in the area of Medicare.
Lowell in Salem, Oregon. Hey, Lowell, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Senator and Tom. I see that Republicans use capital gains tax rates as a hammer against Democrats. They say that, lower capital gains rates magically create jobs. Point one, the rate has been low for 12 years and the jobs have not been created. And I have a recommendation on that. Tie the tax rate on capital gains to an inverse ratio of the unemployment rate. So that way it takes that out of their realm of discussion, because, they have to agree to that, because they say the unemployment rate will magically go down if you cut the rate.
Tom, we're having some very imaginative suggestions coming in from the listeners today. That's an interesting one.
Taking notes.
Lowell's point. Our Republican friends have for many years what I think the first George Bush referred to as voodoo economics. And here's voodoo economics. Magically, you give tax breaks to the wealthy and large corporations, and they're going to take those tax breaks and they're going to invest in America, and they're going to create millions of good-paying jobs. And that is certainly what George W. Bush talked about during his 8 years. That's what he did. And the result was that we lost, L-O-S-T, 500,000 private sector jobs over his 8-year period after all of this wonderful trickle-down economic theory. What is happening when you give tax breaks to the rich, they get richer. When you give tax breaks to large corporations who enjoy zillions of them now, we got many, many large, powerful corporations, profitable corporations making huge profits, paying nothing in taxes. Can't do much better than that. And what they do, in many instances, is shut down plants in America, and they move to China. So I agree with the first George Bush that this trickle-down economic theory is voodoo economics. It has nothing to do with reality, and Lowell is exactly right. We've had it in place for the last 12 years. Hasn't created a whole lot of jobs that I can see.
Bob in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you. I'd like to suggest that perhaps the people will not allow the nuclear plant outside of Atlanta to be built. And I'm wondering, what would that look like? Because we've seen what it looks like when people interfere with construction of things that they know is going to harm them, and people are getting organized all over the country right now to make I suppose you might call it a last stand against the nuclear industry and its subsidies. What does it look like when people hop over the fence and stop the construction there outside of Atlanta? What does that look like? Are these people...
Because you raised an issue which the state of Vermont is deeply involved in right now, and that is the relationship between Washington and state government in terms of nuclear power. To my understanding, the law is pretty clear, is that states have the right to determine their own energy future, and that what Washington has the power to do is determine safety, whether or not a nuclear power plant is safety. That's a federal issue, not a state issue. So if you're asking me, and I don't know what the climate is in Georgia regarding this issue, if the people of Georgia want to say, excuse us, we want to move our energy system in a different way, perhaps toward sustainable energy, perhaps toward more emphasis on energy efficiency. And we as a state, and I certainly don't know what the case is in Georgia, do they have the right to do that? I believe absolutely that they do. And that's an issue that Vermont right now is arguing in the courts. Our state legislature here has said that we do not want to extend the license of a nuclear power plant. And we are fighting in the courts to sustain that right.
It's going to be an interesting one to watch. Bernie, we have about a half a minute left here before the end of the show. Final thoughts for the week?
Well, I think we can pick up on Bob's point, and that is, at the end of the day, what will change this country is the grassroots activism of millions and millions of people who are prepared to stand up to the big money interests who have so much power over the economic and political life of this country. So,
amen.
As you and I always say, despair is not an option. We've got to keep fighting and make sure that our middle class survives.